Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another round of World Talks with me, Don Arleth. Now, let's go ahead and get started. And now, here to discuss whether a major conflict between Israel and Iran could stifle the supply of arms to Russia is Sergeant Sarah Ashton-Cirillo from the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Hello, good evening, Sarah, and thank you for joining me tonight.
Don, it's a pleasure, as usual, to be here. And as I normally begin with, I want to thank the people of Poland for standing with the defense forces of Ukraine and, most importantly, standing for global freedom against the Russian tyranny. And it is a pleasure to be on your show again tonight.
Now, I'm not going to beat around the bush, but the immediate question, will Iran have to keep its own weapons for its own use in the event of a large-scale conflict in the Middle East, and thus potentially not supply Russia, creating a more favorable situation for Ukraine?
Well, I don't want to speculate on what would prompt Iran to start burning through their weapon supply. What I will say, though, is that Russia is truly becoming just another one of Iran's proxy terror groups. We know that Putin is not the head of a nation state as we would know it, but the head of a criminal cabal. And so Iran's influence over the Russian weapons market, be it manufacturing, be it technology, is ongoing. And until we see something different, then we will expect it to continue to pick up pace, because Iran is one of the drivers of Russian terrorism against not only Ukraine, but Syria.
Yeah, I remember the term George W. Bush phrased, if you will, the axis of evil. Now it seems like Russia and China are joining these nations. Now, concerning weapon systems that have originated in Iran, that we've seen used on the battlefield in Ukraine, what kinds of weapons have we seen?
Obviously, as you were talking to your audience in the lead up to our conversation, they've delivered short-range missiles. They are notorious for having delivered, obviously, the drones. And then we saw the ballistic missile delivery, which took place in early September, arriving through a port in the Caspian Sea, was then placed in dozens of containers in an ammo depot, at which point we, tracked them, as we announced just over 10 days ago. And so we are aware of what they're doing, be it the suicide drones, be it the short-range missiles, or be it the ballistic missiles, along with the terror technology. Iran is providing a full array of weapons to help carry out the genocide of the Ukrainian people, which is Russia's goal.
Now, it's been said that Iran has already received the S-400 air defense systems from Russia. Now, what do you think that would signal in the relationship, and does this impact Russia's relations with others there in the region?
Let's jump ahead a few days after that report came out that the first S-400 systems were delivered to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, along with Russian technical experts. A few days after that report came out, in Russia, there was the Army 24 Weapons Expo. And at the Iranian booth was one of the few visits paid personally by the Russian Minister of Defense. And so we could tell from the video that came out of that Army 24 Defense Industry Conference that the ties between Iran and Russia were ever growing. Now, there are some little diplomatic spats, especially along what's known as the corridor by Azerbaijan and Armenia. But other than that, where, of course, Iran is talking unbelievably about territorial integrity and sovereignty, we have seen trade groups increase between Iran and Russia. So we watch these trade groups go back and forth. We see different food exports coming in and out. We're also seeing what's called the North-South Passage, different than that corridor in Azerbaijan and Armenia, which has just opened, that will now allow a faster delivery system to Russia from Iran, be it civilian items or be it weapons tech. And so make no mistake, as I said previously just a few moments ago, Russia truly is just becoming another terror proxy of the Iranian regime. And when it comes to what's happening with the People's Republic of China, we understand that there's geopolitical differences taking place China is trying to get a free trade agreement with both the Saudis and United Arab Emirates. That's being put on hold despite a visit by the Chinese premier recently to Saudi Arabia. We also know that China is making deliveries to Belarusian factories that are now running 24 hours a day to provide armaments and different systems that the Russians need. So we are seeing a four-nation grouping: Belarus, Russia, Iran, China, and then, of course, what we're seeing in North Korea, which would be the fifth nation fighting at war against the global community and against humanity as a whole.
Right, and moving on to North Korea, we hear, do you think that North Korea is going to play a bigger role now if Iran, if there's some kind of, because of a major conflict that might break out, if there's some kind of delay there or bottleneck with the supply of Iranian technology to Russia, is North Korea going to step in and maybe fill the gap? We're also hearing reports of potentially North Korean soldiers being sent to the front lines in Ukraine.
Let's back up just about 10 months ago. Two issues happened then. In December of 2023, North Korean missiles were fired at the people of Kharkiv. We reported it. It took about 3 or 4 months for the international community to come out and say, yes, North Korean missiles have been utilized against Ukraine's civilian population. So we know also with certainty that North Korean artillery is being utilized against the Ukrainian population. So we have Ukrainian the defense forces having to fight back on behalf of the Ukrainian people against North Korean artillery, North Korean missiles. We also reported from Ukraine just about February of 24, so again, about 9-10 months ago, the arrival of thousands of North Korean, what I would call slave laborers. And so those thousands of slave laborers from North Korea, along with the North Korean officers who were just killed in a strike by the defense forces a few days ago in temporarily occupied Donetsk, would clearly indicate that there will be regular North Korean troops incoming shortly, if not already training at Russian polygons.
Well, now, Sarah, I'd like to ask you about the Ramstein Contact Group, this summit that was supposed to take place this month. We're hearing reports that Joe Biden has canceled this trip due to the hurricane that's approaching the Florida coast. But we're still not clear on whether it's been postponed or whether President Zelensky will in fact go. How important is this meeting for Ukraine to be concluded quickly?
I would just like to take a brief moment as a Floridian, having grown up in Florida, went to school in Florida. My heart, my prayers are with my fellow Floridians and everyone in the Carolinas, in Tennessee, in Georgia, who have been affected by these natural disasters. My heart's with you guys. As for President Biden, he's having to do what's most important in the moment for the American people. I think President Zelensky and the other leaders in Europe understand that. But what we also know about the Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, President Zelensky, is that he is a person who will do anything necessary in order to bring victory and liberty and liberation back to all of Ukraine. And if he has the opportunity to present his victory plan to his fellow European leaders, there's no doubt that he will take advantage of that opportunity.
All right, Sergeant Sarah Ashton-Cirillo from the Ukrainian Armed Forces, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Slava Ukraini.
Heroim Slava. And that's all the time we have on this edition of World Talks. Thank you for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.